Hey, welcome. It's Mike with Aegis Defense Solutions. So, welcome back to the Modern Sportsman. We're here again tonight. We're going to use the range, and we have a special treat this evening, okay? Because tonight we're going to go over a fantastic little firearm that has just come out recently from Daniel Defense, a company I absolutely adore. Love their products and their platforms that they build, called the Daniel Defense H9. There it is. We are going to give this a try and throw this on the range this evening, and we're going to do a little review through this and throw some rounds through it and do a little testing on it, okay? Now, a little bit of history about this thing. This is a cool little firearm, and it already existed at one point. There's a company called Hudson Manufacturing Group, and from 2017 to 2019, they produced this handgun, but unfortunately, they went under. They didn't last, which is tragic because what they did with a 9mm platform was that they tried to combine the ergonomics and grip angle of a 1911 with a full metal frame still, in this case aluminum, and allowed for a lower bore access in the hand, meaning we have better recoil control of this. And I'll show a picture of the Hudson H9 now, right above my head. And with that Hudson H9, what they found was, and what the company did was, they ended up taking the bottom portion of the lower receiver at the front end and dropped it down a little bit, making the guide rod sit lower in the actual frame itself. And that did something pretty amazing. That allowed the recoil operating system on that small guide rod, to be lower in that grip. And in fact, if you look at this, that firearm sits pretty low in the hand already. Okay. Now this is the Daniel Defense. We don't have a Hudson H9 to look at tonight, but what Daniel Defense did was Daniel Defense got those plans and design, upped the quality control on it, and so you're hitting about a MSRP of around $1,200 for this baby. And what they did was they took that short recoil operation system that sat lower, they only raised it up a little bit, but kept the same level of the bore access of where the barrel is sitting and how low it is in the hand, okay? That did something pretty important. That allowed for a higher, just a little bit, a slightly higher Picatinny rail on the front of that, making the flashlight, where you would mount a flashlight or a laser, instead of sitting it lower where the Hudson was, it sits just a little bit higher, but we're still keeping that same bore access, okay? And still kept the metal frame, still kept that 1911 style grip, and created just a fantastic platform here with modern sensibilities built into mind to this. So we have that Picatinny rail, we end up having a removable plate so we can place an optic on that, and they have the different risers and plates for all kinds of different optics, whatever you want to run on this thing. And we're rocking about a 15-round magazine with this baby, okay? And another thing that they did was we incorporated, in this case, we do have a trigger safety, very similar to a Glock's, where we have a small paddle right about there on it, and built right into the trigger. And that's the only safety that we're going to be operating on this. What's really neat is, let's actually open this up and take a look at that guide rod on the inside of it. Stripping this firearm down is fairly simple. We have a takedown lever right about here, and much like modern striker fire handguns, all we're going to do is slightly pull back on the frame, on the slide itself, and pull those down to operate that, which allows us to slide the system apart. And what we see on the inside is that looks like we have a deeper groove sitting in that frame for that guide rod system. And if we look at that, we see that the guide rod does sit a fair amount lower than, and it's a fairly small guide rod at that too, sits a little bit lower than, say, something like a Glock. Okay, so here we have the Hudson H9, and here we have a Glock 19, okay? And if we look at the actual frame itself, what you're going to see, if we remove those guide rods, is that the Glock 19 on the top here, where the guide rod actually retains, sits higher up than where the Hudson H9 actually sits. Okay, so it does sit lower, dropping that guide rod and that recoil system lower into the hand, giving us a lower bore access. In fact, to actually incorporate that, one thing they did too is that, compared to, say, like the guide rod on a Glock 19, okay, we actually have a metal flange on the top of that, on the back of the guide rod there, that actually mates up with the barrel right about there. Okay, allowing that guide rod to sit lower without the guide rod itself actually the center of the guide rod contacting the barrel itself. Now, Other comparisons we have, say, with this is we do have a slimmer frame and just a slightly larger frame at that, just a little bit longer, but we do have it slimmer. In fact, we're about a 1/4 inch slimmer compared to, say, like the grip on this Glock 19. And what Daniel Defense did is that we're taking some of those ergonomics and grip angle and features of a 1911 and putting it into a striker fired platform. We do not have a hammer on the back of this thing, okay? So as I pull that, let's feel it up. Now there is a little bit of take up from the safety, not the trigger. Very little take up. There's the wall. There's the release. The release on it feels a little light. Here's our reset. That was the reset right there. And there's the fire. So the only take up I really feel on that is it's just a little bit. You still get a little bit of the play from the safety, and that feels just a little bit different from how, say, any other striker fire feels. And I think I like it. I think it's growing on me. There's the take up, very little. Okay, maybe just a couple millimeters. And there it is. There's the release of that trigger. There's the reset, and there we go. So, well, let's take this thing. Let's get this thing out at the range, and let's have a good time with this. All right, the Daniel Defense H9. We're gonna put this thing through its paces. Kind of tell you my thoughts actually firing this baby. Okay. First off, I'm gonna say this thing fires. It does fire incredibly flat. Honestly does make a difference in the functionality of that firearm. Going backwards, and it's not, the muzzle, there's no muzzle whip on this thing. All of it's straight back. And the last time I fired a firearm that actually functioned that way was the SIG P365 macro. That built-in compensator really did make that tiny little package fire incredibly flat. And with that lower bore axis and how low this thing sits in your hand, it's a really flat recoil impulse with this firearm. I mean, it's all going straight backwards on it. The grip, it feels ergonomic. It's that fantastic grip angle of the 1911, you know, which I absolutely adore that. And all the controls are ergonomic. I can hit everything very easily. They're ambidextrous as well. We can switch that magazine release to the opposite side. I can see myself carrying this firearm. And you know, what else do I like about this firearm? You know, aesthetically. I mean, come on, this is a pretty futuristic handgun. I honestly think, and this is my full endorsement, this should be the official firearm of the United States Space Force for those Guardians out there, okay? So I would love to see this in the hands of some dropship Space Marines, some ODST troopers. I think this would be a fantastic little backup weapon for them. Of course, alongside their M41A1 pulse rifles that they would obviously be using. Chambered, of course, in 10mm caseless with a 20mm under pump action grenade launcher, okay? But this, you know, the Daniel H9, I think it's worth its weight. Honestly, we got to put it through a few more paces, kind of see how it functions after, say, 500 rounds or so. But out of the box, this is a fantastic buy. I think this would be a decent conceal carry, okay? Of course, the aftermarket for this platform it's going to be, you know, it might be a bit before we see everybody adopting holsters for this thing, just kind of see how the community actually adopts this firearm, if they like it, if this continues on to be a platform that people really like and enjoy, okay? It fires crisp, it fires smooth. The trigger out of the box is fairly decent. It does feel a little bit different to me with having the hinge on the safety on that trigger be just reversed from what it would normally be. But the take up on that trigger is, I mean, that's it. We're talking just a couple millimeters. Crisp break for a striker fired handgun out of the box. I mean, this is almost in Walther PPQ territory. I think the PPQ still takes it just because there's just a tiny bit of sponginess with this. But man, That beats a Glock out of the box any day of the week. I think the iron sights are functional. They could be better, certainly. They're better than a Glock iron sights out of the box. You know, those plastic cheapos that they normally ship with. You know, I always recommend getting a Glock, definitely upgrading that, upgrading those optics. You know, we have front serrations on it. We can do little press checks if we want. As there's no indicator on this whether you have a round loaded in it. Kind of how, say, Smith & Wesson does a vertical indicator with the hole, the port on the top where you can turn it over and look, and we can see a cartridge on the inside. But with the serrations on the front, easy enough to do a press check, serrations on the side, and ambidextrous controls. I mean, this has all the marks of just a fantastic platform, and it's going to be really neat to see kind of the aftermarket, what customization is going to come out for this thing. You know, are we going to be upgrading the triggers on this? Will somebody come out with something even better for this? Will Daniel Defense even themselves make a trigger system for this that's just a little upscale from where this is? I mean, you probably don't even need to do anything to this trigger. It is not just functional out of the box. It is absolutely stellar. I can fire this thing all day long. This is a fun firearm to shoot. This has my full endorsement. I mean, like, for a striker fired handgun, man, 10 out of 10, I'd fire this thing any day of the week. I would be comfortable with conceal carrying this as well on the body, that slim frame, having that shorter grip. This is about as deep as a 1911, or excuse me, not 1911, as deep as a Glock 19. So that compact frame size, a little bit longer slide and barrel. But honestly, that's easier to conceal carry. Really, when it comes to conceal carry, it's the grip the grip and the width of this firearm that's going to make the bigger difference as far as how much it's going to print on your person. So this has a full endorsement for me, absolutely. Now, you know, Daniel Defense doesn't give me anything. They didn't send this to me. I'm just reviewing this, the one that we have here at the Modern Sportsman that they're so kindly letting us use. And again, I can't rave about this thing enough. This is awesome. Let's throw a few more rounds with this thing down range. What do I think of this firearm? The Daniel Defense H9. We got 1911 ergonomics, modern additions, optic cutout, fiber optic front sight, front serrations. We got our mountings for a flashlight on this thing. Small frame, narrow, aluminum. So we're not doing a full polymer frame on this, so it's not just tactical Tupperware. This is different. And it's different enough, taking what the Hudson Manufacturing Group did, and unfortunately, you know, them going defunct, and Daniel Defense taking that platform and upgrading it further to an even better platform than it was to begin with. This is that next step. This is a fantastic firearm. I would recommend, I recommend it. I endorse this. Daniel Defense doesn't give me anything. And I would carry this thing. This makes a decent conceal carry. This would make a decent even duty carry as well. Being with that kind of compact frame, it could double in both functions. And out of the box, it needs no upgrades. It works, it functions, and as a striker fired handgun, this is probably one of the better ones I've fired in a while. So full endorsement for me for the Daniel Defense H9. I do recommend it. This is a great little platform. So that's all I got for you this evening on a review of this little bad boy. Ultimately, again, this firearm is not worth as much as the person behind the firearm. Go get training. Go make yourself better than you are now with whatever firearm that you're utilizing, and make yourself as effective and safe as humanly possible. That's really all you can ask for to be a good, upstanding citizen. So with that, if you like what we're doing, like and subscribe down below. Check us out on our website, www.aegisdefensesolutions.com. We'll have a QR code for you. And if you want to reach out to us, we're currently doing travel through multiple different states, offering programs that covers active shooter training, explosives and IED awareness, in addition to fire and weather safety, where we come to your actual facility, your business, your nonprofit, your medical facility, even churches and pregnancy centers. We've done all kinds of different groups where we develop your emergency evacuation plans, train your staff and personnel on how to utilize these plans, and go through active live action training with your group. So check us out again, aegisdefensesolutions.com, and we look forward to hearing from you. Remember, stay prepared, not scared. God bless and good night.